The latest update to the Ausgrid electrical safety rules has been published. This presentation explains the key changes in this 2025/1 edition. There are significant changes in this latest update to the electrical safety rules. Many of the changes are for clarification, to state more clearly the controls that are required. Some of the changes impact the controls we are required to implement, and this presentation aims to explain those changes. Training requirements for the various authorisations required by the electrical safety rules have been removed and replaced by references to the Ausgrid training matrix and/or authorisation systems. The authorisations to enter cable pits and apply hazardous test voltages have been included in this edition. To maintain their authorisation, Class 5F restrictor operators are now required to use their operating authority at least 10 times per year instead of the previous 4 times per year. In Clause 9.4.2, regarding the connection of customer installations to the low voltage network, bolted service fuses and metal-clad service fuses have now been included along with barge board mounted fuses in the situations where the customer main switch or switches may form the point of isolation instead of the service fuse. New clauses 9.4.4 and 9.4.5 prohibit the connection of electrical loads, for example customer installations or street lighting luminaires, across switches, bonds or inter-distributor Ts. Workers must connect both the active and neutral connections to any load on the same side of the switch, bond or IDT. There are changes to the requirements for earthing mobile plant in substations in Clause 7.5.7. A new Clause 7.8.11 sets out the tasks where, if the work is to be carried out from an elevated work platform or EWP, that the EWP must be insulated. These tasks are work on or near live exposed low voltage mains and apparatus, work on live insulated overhead mains and apparatus, and operating work other than the earthing of mains and apparatus that are already earthed. Uninsulated EWPs must not be used for these tasks. The requirements and reasons for a switch to be labelled warning do not operate or would know have been clarified. In addition to the would know label, if a switch cannot be safely closed due to the mains and apparatus that are or are not connected to the switch, an operator's danger tag must also be attached to the switch. Clauses 8.2.3 and 8.2.4 now clearly prohibit any person from closing a point of isolation while a danger tag remains attached to the point of isolation. This is the intent of the words, "This apparatus must not be operated," that are displayed on the danger tag. The order of preference for the means of connecting overhead mains and apparatus to the general mass of earth has been included in Clause 9.8.3. The order of preference is: firstly, a permanent system earth. Secondly, where the surrounding distribution substations utilise a combined earthing system, a low voltage neutral conductor. This option does not apply to the earthing of subtransmission mains. Thirdly, an alternate earth connection such as a pole nail or ground anchor. And lastly, a temporary earth stake. Also, in Clause 9.8.3, the access permit recipient is now responsible for the installation of working earths where the work involves the breaking of conductor connections that would otherwise result in sections of overhead mains no longer being earthed and short-circuited. Copper theft is a growing problem for the electrical industry, and Ausgrid is no exception, with the number of earth down leads being stolen increasing over recent years. To assist with the management of this situation, a new Ausgrid workplace instruction has been developed to allow electrically qualified Ausgrid workers to safely restore the earth connection to a surge diverter, with the surge diverter remaining energised. Clause 9.12.1 now includes an exemption to the need for an access permit to restore the earth connections to a surge diverter only where electrically qualified Ausgrid workers carry out the work in accordance with and implement the controls required by this new Ausgrid workplace instruction, restoring earth connections. The cable identification and remote cutting requirements for both distribution and subtransmission high voltage cables have now been combined. There is no longer separate clauses for distribution and subtransmission cables. Clause 998 is a new clause to set out the requirements for work on subtransmission cable sheath link boxes. In Clause 911.5, the controls of equipotential bonding and/or insulation that are required to manage the risk of induction and earth potential rise when working on high voltage cables have been clearly specified. These changes will impact the controls we previously applied for work on 11 kV, 33 kV and 66 kV cables. Workers who are involved in work on these cables should familiarise themselves with the controls required by Clause 911.5. Clause 913.5 introduces access restrictions to tunnels where a new or modified 132 kV cable joint is energised. The information about the hazards of induced voltages and earth potential rise has been moved from Section 911 to a new Technical Guide 157. As mentioned in the previous slide, there are changes to the controls to manage the risks of induction and earth potential rise for work on high voltage cables. In addition, the induction and earth potential rise controls required for work within substations have been more clearly set out. For single wire earth return or SWR systems, Clause 912.6 requires any excavation within 15 metres of a SWR substation to be carried out under an access permit. This aligns with the signage that is on all SWR substation poles. In addition to including the need to be authorised to enter a cable pit, the new rules set out the electrical risk controls required for work in cable pits and work near energised HV cable joints in Section 10.10. The requirements for drone operations have been moved from Section 7.7 to Section 10.11. Clause 10.11.2 is a new clause which specifies the controls required if a drone is brought into contact with or used to attach fittings to energised overhead mains. The title and content of Chapter 11 have been changed from site-specific to substations. Clause 11.3.2 sets out the controls required for access to substations that are fitted with optical arc fault detection protection schemes. This presentation aims to make workers aware of the key changes in the 2025/1 edition of the Electrical Safety Rules. For details of all changes, please refer to the ESR Amendment Advice. If you have any questions regarding this latest edition of the Electrical Safety Rules, please email electricalsafetyrules@ausgrid.com.au.